Oh my goodness. That was rough. I'll be honest. Like, that was... Woo! What are we, 10 minutes late? 20 minutes late!
Ooh.
Yeah.
Sad day.
Well, sorry about that, guys. We did finally get it. I did have to manually do it. None of my automation worked. I have no chat window. Samantha's the only one with a chat window. I have no idea what's happened.
I'm special.
This is supposed to be the simplest stream of the year because we're doing just Q&A for like an hour. So I don't know what happened, but it's a night for it, right? So I refuse to take it as a sign of the year to come. I don't know about Samantha, but...
It's alive. We made it.
We did. We made it. It's alive. I get it.
Falcor said you wanted simple.
Yeah, right. Yeah, a little too simple. Like I'm flying blind here. So, actually, oh no, I have a chat. I have a chat on my phone now. It's here.
Hooray.
Well, all right. YouTube kept telling me like live streaming was not allowed. It was weird. And then it kept saying it wasn't getting our data. And then it was just one thing after another. So I'm gonna have to do some playing around this week and see if we can't make sure things are smooth. Maybe it was YouTube servers. I don't really know. There's probably a lot of live streams going on here at the end of the year. So we may have been just fighting for a stream or some data or something. So, or maybe things got cross-threaded. I don't know. How you doing, Samantha?
Doing good.
Well, I'm Andrew Reed with MushRune Cast and by Mossy Creek Mushrooms, I guess. And it's my better half, Samantha, who is already greeted. And your camera is flickering for some reason. Oh my
Are you serious?
Goodness. Yes. This is driving me insane.
Well,
right.
we were sick. Now all the electronics are sick.
Yeah, there we go. We passed it on somehow. Talk about zoonotic diseases, right? Speaking of, holy crap, guys, for Christmas, I got this book called Blight. And it's all about the pandemic of the future.
You
right?
didn't bring it.
I didn't. It's down the hall.
Off.
Yeah, I know.
Aww.
Well, I didn't actually think I was going to say anything about it. But it's entirely about fungal pathogens, in particular to our food crops, and I mean, and to ourselves and everything else, and about how this person is kind of laying out that the next pandemic will be fungal in nature. And whether that's attacking our food crops, our animal crops, or ourselves, or even just other things that we need for living, that funguses persist, right? And it's one of the hardest things in the world to treat. Usually by the time you see the fungus, it's a little too late. Very cool book. So if you guys want to learn some stuff about fungus that you may not want to know, get that book.
Gross.
Right. Anyways.
So you're going to be like an athlete's feet. Athlete's feet?
Well, so that is actually really interesting. Athlete's foot is basically a yeast. But what's funny about yeast infections in humans is that it's one of the many non-single cell forms of yeast. They actually form loose chains and burrow in between the cells of your body, which is why you can't just wash a yeast infection off. It's literally growing in between your skin cells. It's become a part of you. Ooh. This is good stuff for Halloween episode. We're going to say, like, we're just to save this stuff, like the horrifying facts about fungus, and then just have a horror episode.
Speaking of yeast, Andrew, I think we've already talked about this before, haven't we?
I'm not sure.
He made a yeast petri dish with yeast from a blackberry that he rolled around, and it said "I love you" on it, and he gave it to me.
Yes. I think I actually had that in last episode's video. Yeah, that was a yeast from a blackberry. As Samantha said, my oldest son, and I went and picked, and as we were, sorry, I forgot it. I had the cam on, Samantha. I just took a petri dish with one of these nice, juicy, almost too ripe blackberries, and just set it in the dish and just rolled it around, and yeast grew off of it. I isolated it and did several streaks on the plates, and came up with a bunch of it. Like, it smells nice and fruity and everything else. So right now I'm brewing some mead, some hard cider, and 2 gallons of sake. One is just a traditional nigori, and then one is that I grew the koji mold myself as well. And the second one is a spiced sake, which smells so good. It's almost like a pumpkin pie kind of smell or something. Like, I don't know.
It does smell really amazing. And I told Andrew that I thought it was funny that all the fruity ones smelled super gross, like weird, disgusting farts.
But then the mold.
Then it's the mold that smells floral and really, really good. And just, yeah, anyway.
Yeah, you want your house to smell really good. Build yourself a little incubator. Take away a unicorn bag. Fill it full of rice. Sterilize that stuff and koji mold it. And then just let it sit. Your house will smell like flowers and very, very ripe fruit. It's amazing. Nothing says I love you like a yeast infection. Well, that's true. I guess I didn't think about that. Here, baby, here's a plate of yeast. Boy, you guys, Samantha, really going on that one. Look at it.
That was funny. Sorry. Anyway.
Hey, what do you guys think about this too? This my brother gave me this shirt, and I think purple might be my color. I'm really really into it. There we go.
I like it.
Hey, maybe we should. Maybe
it's
these could
pretty.
be the new website colors. We could turn all the teal to purple. I don't know. Anyways, so tonight, guys, is really just a Q&A, so it's going to be all about your questions. So feel free to keep them coming hard and fast. We'll stay on another, 20 minutes or so than what we were initially planning, specifically to give you guys a full hour. Our goal tonight is a full hour show, just catered all around you all and your needs. So plus me having a little bit of fun. We probably should. Actually, I do have like a short, 3-minute video or something just about grow room diversity that kind of builds off the last couple of weeks. So why don't we get that out of the way, and then we'll run back to you guys and do the questions. So feel free to hammer out questions as the video's playing, and when we come back, we'll hit them to you. All right, so just to show a little bit about what we're talking about when it comes to biodiversity in the grow room, especially amongst oysters. So these are a 5-pound bag test that we're doing. These are Pathfinder oysters, and these things, the Pathfinder is just a masterful mushroom. Look at those beautiful tulip stems. And one of my favorite things is how the mushroom is so soft. And the Pathfinder has that thick stem texture from the tip of the cap all the way down to the base. And then you look at something like this. This is a wild oyster test that we're doing, and it is not my favorite. This will probably go into cold storage and never come back out, but it might. And then we can come down here and see, here's the beginnings of some old road, which is one of my favorite wild mushrooms. And then knocked this side off earlier, and unfortunately you can only see half the cluster, but this is BS26, and it's just one of the most beautiful blues I've ever seen in the industry. Just absolutely gorgeous. And then sitting right next to it is Rocky Top. And Rocky Top kind of comes out a steel color right now. Starts off as a deep navy blue. But Rocky Top is interesting because it's polyphenotypic, which just means that it has different phenotypes that it shows throughout the year. So like, here we have kind of the warmer part of the winter, which has got a steel color. Through the deep winter, it'll be a navy blue. And then it just changes looks throughout the year. Here we have a wild oyster that we bought in called a Rifle Creek oyster. Don't actually remember who I got this off of, but we're trialing it out. This is an elm blue cross. same as this right here. And it's turning out to be a really beautiful oyster. We haven't sold this one, but it's coming out really beautiful as well. And then here we've got some trials of some polypores that we're doing. And just a touch of pink up there in the corner for some reason. A late bloomer, I guess. And with that, y'all, I just really wanted to kind of show you the trials that we're starting off. Can't really show you. You can see the middle wrecks are clear, but on the other side, we've got a bunch of Hericium. That bag actually looks bad, but that is a Xylaria bag that I'm trying to fruit for spores. And then got a lion's mane, a Inoki, which you can see is fruiting in the back, but has put out like 5 or 6 crops. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We're doing all of the trialing of bred strains like this one, and then wild strains like that, and syn-in strains. We've got these two. What's funny to me is BS26 and Rocky Top look pretty different, and the color scheme is just, I mean, BS26 is just my favorite for color. But when it comes to the Rocky Top and the BS26, they're both sister strains. They were both created during the same cross of a Lambert's 123 Blue and North Spore Snow Oyster. And they both have come out to be very, very different mushrooms indeed. Which is why I think the testing is so important. Well, there we go. That was just kind of showing. Actually, I saw a couple questions or something about how warm or cold it was in that room when that video was taken. The video was taken right before I came in here and tried to go live. So, like, we literally walked in to the Great Hall. I checked out the grow room, and I was like, "Oh my goodness! Look at the diversity that's showing up again already just in the grow room startup." You saw those 2 middle rows were mostly empty. That far wall had Hericium, reishi, Turkeytail, and a bunch of other stuff on it that we've grown through the summertime. And then we're just now getting our oysters going again as well. So, and then of course we've got a bunch of oysters to test from the summer, winter breeding program, etc. So when I saw that diversity coming through, that's exactly, that's a dream come true for me. That's getting to see the white and the brown and the blues and the several different types of blues and the thick clusters of the Pathfinder, and that's what I want to see on a market table for people. If you see that kind of variety, we've made it. So, but again, it's not about me and my passion projects right now. It's about you guys and your questions. So, Samantha, what have you got for me?
Okay. Well, there's scrolling back.
I was going to say we should scroll back, yeah. We tend to move a little faster than the questions sometimes.
Someone asked if yeast was a fungus.
Yes. Yeast is a single cell fungus. So, sometimes multi-cell, but only in small chains typically. Interestingly enough, yeast is also what's called, I guess it's a budding fungus versus sporing. Yeast will produce spores, endospores, but only under times of great stress. Otherwise, it buds, much the way bacteria buds. So, in fact, if you look at it, yeast under an electron microscope, a lot of times you can see budding scars where, as it is continued to expand and produce more, and they disconnect, they leave little pieces of scar tissue.
So thank you, Chris, too, by the way, for saying that the graphic work was super cool. That was me.
Which graphic work?
I guess the intro, the MushRune Cast graphic, I suppose. And then, let's see. Someone said that they just planted watercolor, which we are about to plant some watercolor as well. So I don't know if you guys know this or not, but everything that we send out, we batch share. So we grow a portion of it here at the same time that we send it out to all of our customers just to make sure everything looks good. So watercolor is actually one of my favorites because it looks like it's smiling at you. It's got all these little
teeth,
white teeth on the very edges. But yeah, it's really, really neat. And then Chris said, did they turn out as well as the parent strains? What are the parent strains of watercolor?
Is he asking about he's asking about the parent strains of watercolor?
And they asked if they turned out as well as the parent strains.
The BS26 and the ones I showed in the video?
No, watercolor. What is the parents?
Okay.
A watercolor.
That's literally what I just asked you. You said no.
Did I?
You guys are about to see a knockdown. Pay-per-view, Samantha and Andrew fight. Let's do it.
No.
Hey, well, come on. You're just going to fight with me for free? Come on. We should get paid for that. Wow, she's turning more red. So
I've been red this whole time.
She has, actually, yeah. Okay, so
it's a curse.
Watercolor. Interestingly enough, you guys saw Rocky Top and BS26 in there. Watercolor is another sibling strain.
Are you serious?
Yep, that cross is one of my most prolific crosses, and it's one of my first crosses. Many strains that I sell. Super Scallop is also a sister strain.
So I have a library where, and you saw me in that video, I was going in and taking a picture of the filter patch where we write down what it is on the bag. And then I'll take a picture of the pin set, the mid-growth, and the finished growth. And those pictures are what go onto the website. So everything that we've grown, those photos are actually ours to prove what they look like, for one. But then I have notes in that library on the files of what the parents were, but I can't remember them all like Andrew can. They're his babies. He remembers each and every one of them.
She has caught me literally staring at a bag of mycelium, just kind of like petting it, you know? She'll walk in and I'll just be petting this bag, and she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, nothing. It's definitely not petting my little babies.
He's like, grow. Oh, man. Let's see. And then Vance has asked, can you go through your streaming, not streaming, I'm sorry. I guess we've had so much trouble with streaming, it's on my brain. Does steam pasteurization kill mycogon?
Oh, yes, I can. Real quick, though, before I do, let me, Samantha, I'm going to put the camera on you and keep it on you for just a second, and then I'm going to run over there and play with the cord. Because I think that whenever I put you in focus, I may have knocked the cord loose.
Hi.
So just talk to the pretty people for a moment. Talk to the nice people, Sam.
He's gonna go wiggle the cord. I'm just gonna go like blank, completely. Anyway, is it working?
I can't see from over here. Look at my
yes,
screen.
It's working. Come back. It's working. I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm the very shy one out of the two of us. It's awkward as heck. Don't mind me.
What's funny is if I'm over here talking, she can be natural. But then the moment I go talk to the people, she's like, I can't. She's just, the gears get hung up.
The gears get hung up.
It's like throwing a monkey wrench in there. All right, so I am answering about our steaming practices. Okay, steaming practices. ADHD can't get me. So we run for 36 hours for 120 blocks. Each block is 12 pounds. That's a little over 3 layers of blocks in a horse trough. We run 9 kilowatts the whole time. So really it's about a 24-hour warm-up cycle with a 12-hour cook cycle. It's kind of what we call it. I mean, we just cook the blocks. And then if they don't come out looking chocolatey, we just don't use them. I will cook them again. Put them in for a few more hours. The big thing is the blocks are kind of greenish when you put them in. You don't want them to be that kind of green colored. You want them to look toasted. The best practice I have ever come across is like what I put in that video a while back about the sterilization tape. Sterilization tape will work even at pasteurization temperatures. So you can take it and put it in between your blocks. So if you've got like 3 layers, what I would do is put a piece of sterilization tape on the bottom of that block in the middle and the top of that block in the middle with blocks on top so that it's acting as a solid mass as much as possible. And then you'll see that sterilization tape change color, right? It goes from being just like masking tape to masking tape with black lines through it. That will usually indicate a good cook. That is the cheapest, most economic way of showing a good cook. And it won't, if you just hit pasteurization temperatures for pasteurization times, that tape will not change colors. But if you hit, what we're doing is ultra pasteurization. So if you're doing ultra pasteurization and you do it for enough time to basically sterilize the blocks, that sterilization tape will change color and indicate that you've got a good cook. That's the biggest thing for getting rid of mycogon, bacteria, mold, anything in the blocks.
Now I'm embarrassed that I was embarrassed. I've been trying to rub the red off, but it's just getting redder. Anyway. So something else that also Eric said that your shirt looks like his family's tartan.
Oh, cool.
So
that's a badass tartan.
There. But Vance also said that should you avoid breathing into the substrate bags before folding them and putting them into the steamer?
I wouldn't. Anything before a steamer, I wouldn't worry about it. So I'll put it to you this way. We have... none of this was ever sold, but we have done anything from dirty food scraps into a bag to one time we saw a couple of mice that had been killed in the pellets, I guess, and gone through, and we just marked the bag and then watched to see if oyster mushrooms would fruit off of it. It did. One time I no longer wanted my son to be irresponsible with his hissing cockroach colony, and I just dumped the whole thing into a bag and then froze them. I froze them, but then we sterilized them to make sure that they would never come back because roaches. And then we grew mushrooms off that, and that worked. They grew just fine.
Cordyceps.
Cordyceps would absolutely grow off hissing cockroaches, I guess. But I have grown so much off of gross things that I'm literally thinking about doing a segment for the show called Will It Grow Mushrooms, where we take anything.
Like dirty jobs, but mushroom grower style.
I guess, yeah. Like that guy who cuts stuff in half, and that's all his whole YouTube channel is just cutting stuff in half, except I just throw mushrooms on it and see if it grows. But anyways, the point is...
I do not approve.
The point is that it's really... You don't have to worry about it. Breathing into the bags a little bit. It's not going to be a big thing. After the cook, yes. After the cook, every microbe matters. But before the cook, I try to reduce the number of microbes going in by using pellets and things like that. But then again, like I said, through all the experimentation that we've done, the spit in the bucket, your grain is so yeasty by the time you get it cooked in the sterilizer. It's as long as it's not producing toxins, you don't allow stuff to go out of control and create... Because that would be the big thing for me, is that if you've got mold, I would grow in moldy substrate, except for the fact that mold releases toxins to slow down and hinder other fungus. So you can't grow on moldy substrates because it's had toxins on it that are actively fighting. It's not the organism I'm worried about; it's the metabolites from that organism. So, as far as I'm concerned, sing, breathe, whatever around your bags before you cook them. That's fine.
I wouldn't coffin them.
I wouldn't be worried about it. I wouldn't make it a standard practice to cough into bags, but if you accidentally cough into a bag, I'm not worried about it.
Catherine also asked earlier, she said she's getting ready to put reishi, turkeytail, and oysters in the same fruiting tent. Is that okay?
Okay,
I don't know if you saw our grow room or not, but we have pretty much everything in there.
Yeah.
I will say pick your oysters early and often because they will absolutely spore all over everything, and reishi and turkeytail do take longer to grow than oysters, and you will see a slight residue on them if you're not careful. If you just let the oysters go and go and go.
If you're going to do that, really what I would do is just grow your reishi in vitro in bags. And just let them grow antlers, and don't even put them in your grow room. That way you don't have to worry about it. If you really want conchs, then what I have found with polypores is that polypores actually like your room to be a little less airflow and a lot less humidity than oysters do. Oysters are very humidity hungry. In fact, we know that oysters directly uptake moisture from the air. You can definitely make your crop way heavier by running a lot of mist. So for me, I would want to use a very dry fog like House of Hydro, code Mossy. Make sure you put that in the notes section to get your free discs. But a really dry fog with a good drying out period for polypores. Oysters, you still want a good drying out period, but your cycle can be a lot tighter. Your room can stay a lot wetter. Moisture doesn't bother the oysters as bad. Plus, they grow so quick that you're not going to be getting mold growing on them typically. Whereas polypores take a lot longer. They're a lot thicker tissue. And, like, turkeytails are one of the fastest inoculating, colonizing species I've ever come across. But they're one of the slowest mushrooms in the fruiting room I've ever seen. It'll take all season. So Samantha and I have talked about this. What we're planning on doing going forward to hit a little bit more of that ideal is to grow oysters throughout the strong market season for our restaurants. And then in summertime, when it's so difficult to grow mushrooms here without heavy financing into HVAC, we're just going to grow with the seasons. We'll probably do a small oyster grow for the breeding program, but we'll just stock the whole room, kind of like what we did this last year with the reishi, is that we'll be doing a lot of reishi, turkeytail, other polypores, throw them in the grow room, and then, I've got speaking engagements this summer. So we'll be traveling in the RV bioprospecting with the mobile lab while going to, we're planning on going to the Oklahoma Mushroom Festival. I'm supposed to be a speaker there.
I'll be manning the booth.
Samantha will be manning. We'll actually have a booth this coming year. We'll be giving a talk on bioprospecting, is what it looks like. So, but we'll be doing other things like that too. So I'm looking at some other speaking engagements potentially to hit up. And it looks like my summer docket's going to be full. So really what matters about this is the summertime I want my employees to be able to handle a room that's not really requiring a lot of them. That way, we can grow some high value stuff in a dry, warm room and not hemorrhage money through air conditioning the whole time.
Yeah, and you're not going in and out with things on your clothes and occupying the room often, and it just kind of lets things just kind of do their thing and grow and not be disturbed, and things that take time can take time.
Yeah, we'll fill the room with stuff like black reishi, yellow reishi, red. There's the tiger reishi. I haven't grown that in years. I'd love to grow the tiger reishi again.
I'm excited about that one.
I love the tiger reishi. It never really fruits as big for me as a bunch of the others, but it tastes so good in the teas and the coffees. So.
And Catherine also hit on a point kind of with earlier, and you did touch on it with the humidity. She said that so you just kind of cut it down shorter. That her humidity is at 93%.
What's her low end? Does she say?
Says that the temperature went down to 2 degrees to 68, and my humidity is 93. Is that a good temp and humidity?
So your humidity, as I've said in videos in the past, your humidity should have a up and down. You need a controller that gives you a low range and a top range, or a high range, whatever. And I think right now my grow room is set at 85% on the top end and 62% on the low end. That's for our oyster room that you just saw. My hot box that I'm building which is for some tropicals. So I can do tropical trials for like milky mushrooms, the Psilocybe indica, things like that. My hotbox is going to be stay much wetter. It'll be a more tropical, temperature and humidity. But for the most part, you really want a good up and down on your swings, and you really want it to come pretty low, lower than you would initially think, at least. You want your room to grow. Not to grow. You want your room to dry out, and so you don't want no puddles on your floor. You don't want condensation everywhere, and you just want to put your room on that cycle. Some days it'll cycle a lot, and some days it'll just cycle barely. But that's really that's my recommendation is a house of hydrofogger, because the fog stays drier. It doesn't put water in your floor. And then if you just buy the humidistat that he's got in a kit, then you get something that can already be programmed high range, low range. But you can also get with an Inkbird humidistat as well.
So Punchy has asked, can you give an update on your inoculation straight into bulk substrate testing in one of your videos?
From Liquid. Oh my gosh, your video it's just flashing like it's driving me crazy. Uh-oh.
What? Is yours doing it too?
I've lost our video entirely.
Oh no.
Hold on a second, guys. Uh-oh.
I didn't do it.
It won't switch between the cameras anymore. We're going to try out something here real quick.
Just going to unplug it and plug it back up.
He's frozen.
Can we go wiggle the wire again?
No, it won't do any good. They said they can still hear me, but the video's frozen. The only way I know to do this would be to restart.
It's going to be like an old-timey...
And it would stop the streaming.
Radio.
I don't know if I can begin it again. This is really annoying. Hey guys, check out our sponsor. Haha! It's me! Again! The guy who does most of the videos. Tonight, just going to talk to you guys a little bit about BS26 in particular. This is Rocky Top, also an excellent strain, but the strain I'm pushing tonight is BS26. These colors are phenomenal. This is easily one of my favorite mushrooms for looks. It fills a box so nice. And of course, if you're growing it during the same season you're growing golds, when they pop open a box of blue and gold, oof. Especially for a Kentucky game, I guess, right? That being said, we have plenty of BS26. It's shipping out fast. You guys, get you some, because it is worth growing. It is meaty. It does well in the cold. It does well through most of the warmer temps. And that color, it's the bluest blue I've ever seen. So, BS26, try it. And we're not back. Look at that. Dang it.
Oh no. Seriously though, what is up with it tonight?
I am really, really, really frustrated with this. Alright, give me 1 second. The only thing I know to do... Guys, this might crash everything, and it might not. If it crashes everything, we'll be right back.
Chaos.
Yeah, pure chaos. Wait for you to go out of the bang.
We seriously have like the best audience ever.
We do. Very understanding, thankfully. While we figure out this amateurish operation.
Can they still hear us?
I don't know if they can still hear us. They could earlier, but I don't think so. Maybe not now.
Oh, not where you found it. Or like stop.
Bam. Oh shit.
What'd you do?
I think it totally crashed it.
Whoa.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely... Oh, goodness. I hope we're back. I think we're back.
Are you
I think
back?
we're back. Okay, I have video. I have control. And yes. All right. Oh, and they could hear us. I was totally singing in the microphone. Well, I feel like that deserves a like, guys. Come on, like it, share it, comment it. Like it. I made this for you.
Well, during all of that craziness, I don't know if you guys heard where I said you guys were seriously the best. Like,
It's true.
this,
Wow.
we've had to restart this twice, and then that glitch, and then you've been troopers the entire time. So, oy,
I need
thank you.
a quick drink of water, Samantha. Entertain them.
I think they're entertained enough, to be honest.
Fair enough.
Okay, well, in that time, the chat has jumped like crazy.
That's
on
okay.
top
See
of
if you can go
everything
back.
else.
I don't
We-
remember
we
what
flashed
question.
everyone.
I don't remember what question I was answering. So,
I don't remember either. Anyway. Oh, yeah. Update on our inoculation straight into bulk substrate
okay.
testing.
There we go. For Punchy, wasn't it?
Hurry before it goes away again.
Yeah, no kidding. So, the update is that we have found that some species do better than others. Some substrates do better than others. So, oyster mushrooms did not really seem to like going from, from liquid culture to, oh my gosh. It's freaking out. So the oysters didn't like going from liquid culture to substrate if it was hardwood. But if the base was made with straw, which is why we created the goat mix in the first place, then most species that had a hard time taking would take. However, we found that straw, I'm sounding like Collier right now.
Your voice is breaking.
We found that with straw, the bags were a lot bigger. So like if we can fit 5 sawdust bags on a shelf, then you could only fit 4 of the straw bags on a shelf. And they produced a little more per pound of substrate than the other oyster bags did, but not by much. The Inoculation and Hericium both took to sawdust just fine. No problems whatsoever. Didn't even need to be aerated liquid culture. Aerated liquid culture has got better enzymatic profile than the regular liquid culture normally does. So it tends to do a little bit better. Like it acts like a grain-to-grain transfer rather than a liquid culture transfer. And oysters did do better with the aerated. So if I was going to do it, this is my... If I was going to go from LC to bulk inoculations, if it was with Inoculation or Hericium, I would just do it. If it's with oysters or anything else, I would want to do... I'd want to do aerated liquid culture. I would want to do something like 100 milliliters per bag, per block, rather than the 30 and 50 and 60 I'd tried before. And what I would do is probably still mix it in, or cook my blocks with a core insert, of which I would then open the bag, pull the core, and then dose my just free pour 100 milliliters of liquid culture in. To me, that would be the best way to go. We've had good results. It's still not something that I'm willing to change my entire operation for. So that's pretty much the gist of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next question?
Yeah, baby.
Okay. How do we grow our golds? And Jake said that his gold keeps aborting in the grow room mid-growth. That's some strangeness.
I'd need to know more before I could tell you what that was. Whether that's bacterial or humidity or substrate.
He's in a very, very cold environment,
Who
from what I remember.
is this?
Jacob Bowles.
Oh, Jacob Wolves, gotcha.
Jake Wolves.
Probably the cold for you
WLVF.
right now, man. Gold, it's probably too cold for you. They're probably growing out a little bit and then just being like, screw this, and stopping.
Do you think that the
Our
new
New
gold?
York, remember our New York order stopped ordering golds a month ago because they couldn't.
Do you think the new gold would help him?
I don't know. Our new gold is from here in
s-
Tennessee, and most gold strains I'm aware of are from further north than
Well, we
ours.
saw it in 40 degrees. How cold are you getting, Jacob? And I'll sneak a replacement gold to you. That's a colder weather one.
All the way to Mongolia.
Yeah. And you can test it and see if it works. And if it works, then reputation points.
That'd be kind of cool to have Tennessee genetics and Mongolia, like straight up wild Tennessee genetics.
Oh. Anyway, so we'll figure that out. And then Mycology Farm said, any tips on my first Shitaki run or your golden gnocchi I just picked up? Most of my experience is oysters and the little lion's mane.
So with both of those, I'm going to counsel patience. With a gnocchi, I like to let my bags get really orange and kind of gooey before I fruit them. We're actually testing smaller bags to see if we can get a faster turnaround on those, because it's something like 6 weeks or more for our 12-pound bags to get fully matured. With shiitake, it's going to be the same thing, except more time. You want to wait a minimum of 8 weeks, depending on the strain. Other strains, you're going to want to wait until... Really, what I would do is wait until your strain is good and popcorned, and then it'll brown. And once it's good and browned, you know it's time to fruit it. And give it the shiitake smack.
Yes.
Yeah, the shiitake smack is
Smack
the way
the
to
heck
go.
out of every single one of them, including chestnuts. Chestnuts actually do really well with that too. So I will actually take the block and just smack it and then cut it and initiate it. It works out well.
Absolutely, yeah. Chestnuts like a good smack. The shiitake likes a good smack. I don't think we've ever smacked the enoki.
No.
But enoki, you basically just cut it open and it'll fruit like an oyster mushroom. So
we've also cold shocked things by wheeling it into the walk-in and then back out. Mm-hmm. And we noticed a difference with that too.
Shiitake does well from a cold shock. I haven't found that a cold shock to be entirely necessary. The smack is usually good enough, but cold shock I feel like does work well. All right, baby. What else you got?
He has also said that he's got a black pearl oyster that always makes an amazing culture and colonizes very fast but never fruits. So what's up with that?
I don't know. There's a lot of people who report that. Primarily what I've seen that in is when I've tried to breed black pearl, the black pearl children won't fruit. But I've heard that other people have gotten black pearl children to fruit. So it's a weird mushroom. It's a really weird mushroom, and I am definitely, while I've got a pretty good understanding of it at this point, and I can get it to fruit pretty well, it is definitely an unstable strain and does not have consistent results for everybody. When it does good, it does great. And there are some growers who can they've got it figured out and it just grows perfectly for them every time. And then there's some people who struggle with it forever and they can never figure out why. Usually our strain does pretty well because we have such a young strain compared to most suppliers, because we go back to slant so often. But, and this black pearl that we've been selling for the past few months was directly pulled out of a cold storage slant very recently. So it's once we reset it, we ended up having amazing results. But yeah, it seems like that strain destabilizes very quickly. I'm not sure where you got your black pearl. If you got it from us and you're having trouble fruiting it, maybe it's too warm, because it is a cool weather mushroom. What else you got, baby?
So Catherine said that she bought a heat plate, but the pressure cooker takes like 3 hours for the PCI to start going up. Do I still do 2.5 hours at 15 PSI? Also had George on the Discord he mentioned that he was cooking based on the instructions of what he was using for the LC, and then we cook ours a lot longer. So it's like 25 minutes, but we cook ours at like 45.
Oh, I cook my my liquid culture for anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half. Catherine, it does not matter how long it takes you to get to temperature. The 2.5 hours at 15 psi is how long is necessary to cook it.
So you wait for it to warm up, get to temp, and then start your timer.
To 15, and then you start your timer. And your weight on your pressure cooker should just barely be. It should barely be hissing. If you're hearing something like, that's bad. You're running too hot too fast, and you're going to run out of water. So, just a bare hiss, so that you know that's at 15. And then it might not hiss for a second. Then it'll. And that's how you know when your pressure cooker is at temp and doing good. And then you can just sit there and read a book or watch TV or do whatever you want. However, I highly recommend buying a Cadco plate. A 240 volt one will heat that stuff up quick. But you can even buy 120. Who sells Cadco plates? I know Mushroom Media online sells Cadcos. I'd say you could probably get them off Amazon. I don't know who else sells them. But I know Mushroom Media Online does because I've seen it in the warehouse.
Yeah, they're our neighbors now.
They are our neighbors. Man of War and Mushroom Media both.
Then the next question is, how do you use reishi and turkeytails for supplements? Do they need to be dried and powdered first?
I would dry them, and I would dry them at heat. And then some people make them into capsules. I just prefer to put mine in my coffee. Or if I'm sick, make a tea. And I mean, I don't get fancy about it or anything, guys. It's the same kind of shtick I always do. I just simplify the process until it works for me, which is break a piece of the mushroom off, throw it in the French press, and I'm done. When it comes to tinctures, Samantha and I have started talking about making a Mossy Creek Mushrooms tincture line because I do take tinctures. And we've got a sonic extractor for it, but we just haven't used it yet. So we have considered just starting a line of alcohol and water, like, triple extractions basically. So, but we haven't done it. Actually, if you guys would be interested in that kind of stuff, let us know. It's not something I've been like keen to start unless I know that we have a consumer base for. There we go. But that's how I take it. I mean, I'm very simple about stuff. Just regular old tinctures, and then really that's for the alcohol extraction. For water extraction, I just hot tea, and sometimes I make a mead called Forest Dwellers Mead, and I throw a lot of different mushrooms, a lot of medicinal mushrooms in there, and then I cook with that mead. It's got a lot of garlic and like 5 or 6 different types of mushrooms, and it's if you want, I have a video on that Forest Dwellers Mead. So.
Do you remember the reishi hot cocoa they used to make at the farmer's market with the Tootsie truck?
Yes, the Tootsie truck.
That was awesome. And they put hot peppers in it, so it was literally hot chocolate.
It was hot sauce. So there was a vendor called Rushy Springs that did fermented hot sauce, and then there was us who did reishi, and so they would take a really dark cocoa base, add milk and cream to it, add our mushrooms. They'd make a big broth out of it, and then add that. And I think she even did an alcohol extraction of that and added that back to it. And then added a couple of splashes of that fermented hot sauce in each one. And it wasn't, you couldn't really taste the spiciness, but you would feel it warming you from the inside out. Like, it's like you'd start drinking that hot cocoa.
But it wasn't too much. So
it wasn't, no.
I actually have the gene that makes spice 3 times as spicy. So it was not too much for me. So I actually really enjoyed it. It was really good.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. As soon as she mentioned that, my mouth started drooling. So that's a good way to consume medicine, I felt like. The only thing that was really, that was like some hot peppers, cocoa, reishi mushrooms. You just add a little bit of silly to that, and you've got like an Aztec cocktail.
And then someone else has asked what a good brand for a small fan is.
What kind of small fan?
Like a small can fan, I guess, or what? Maybe
You
what
can
we
buy
have.
it like so. VivoSun does a 4-inch.
Like a small tent grow room.
Yeah, VivoSun does a small 4-inch fan. And I've already thrown it way over there, so I can't. Well, I guess I could go get it, but I'm not going to. VivoSun, VivoSun. They sell on Amazon for sure. There's also Vevor, VEVOR. That's where we got our 8-inch can fans for the grow room, and it's just super cheap. So I just get this for fans. I just get super cheap stuff because we do negative pressure, and we only go through about 1 or 2 fans a year. But we always we'll pull when we clean the grow room. We'll pull the old fan, put the new fan in, take the old fan out back, spray it out with the pressure washer, and then let it dry for a week before we switch it back out.
And I know that it seems kind of intuitive to buy the cheaper one, but they're also easier to clean in my experience because they're made out of the plastic versus the more heavy-duty metal that rusts whenever you clean it often and clean it frequently. And
I don't care if somebody tells you that metal won't rust. The oyster mushroom spores will make it rust.
And then you have to get a food-grade lubricant and make sure it's food grade before you spray that with it, and it just ends up being kind of,
So the plastic ones are just easier to take care of because you don't have to worry about any of that.
Yeah, just be careful not to drop it from the roof of your grow room.
We wouldn't know about that.
Nope. And then, is a preconditioning room absolutely necessary? And if so, why?
It's not, but I wouldn't want to grow without it. So,
then why do you like it so much? Why is it your favorite?
Well, that's what I'm trying to think of. So,
yeah, preconditioning room and post preconditioning room.
What? Gotcha. You want to? Oh gosh. I swear
broken with that one.
She's so hard to communicate with sometimes.
That's not true. Okay, maybe a little true.
Okay.
Yeah, I got hearts for that one though.
Did you? Okay. Preconditioning room. It is a way to treat your air, to condition your air before it goes in the room, hence the name preconditioning room. That means that your HVAC, humidity, fresh air, everything that's coming through that space can be treated pre-spores getting to it. This is important for a couple of reasons, but one is, let's say you put a window unit in your grow room, which we've done before, long ago. The spores will eat that stuff up to death. Your coils will be covered. Your fan will be coated. The biofilm that builds up on top of these spores germinating, dying, and then getting bacteria ridden, and then growing and doing that whole repeating process. If you have that right before you dump that air into your grow room, you're dumping filthy air into your grow room. Now, a humidifier. If you put your humidifier into your grow room, instead of putting it pre-grow room, you have the same problem. You have spores going into your wet environment and sludging, creating a biofilm or a biosludge, which you're then using the sonic humidifiers to atomize the water, and every single droplet is now covered in atomized bacterial sludge. And that now goes everywhere through your grow room. So it's just all about being able to condition your room without making all of the conditioners filthy. And it makes your life so much simpler. Even if you put your humidifier in your grow room, but you encapsulate it, and then you have a fan on the outside in the preconditioning room, and that's creating positive pressure in your humidifier so that you're never getting any backflow of spores and bacteria and flies and whatever getting in there. Then you can have your humidifier in the grow room. But I would like, in fact we do, but we only do that because we have that fan pushing clean positive pressure air through that unit. And our humidifier will stay clean that way. It stays clean for weeks. Like we've done tests to see how long does this thing take to get filthy. And it was like 2 or 3 weeks before.
Well, we tried it with a UV light, without a UV light, with the lid on, without the lid on. Just,
Yep.
I mean, we have people ask questions, and we will, we'll do a mock, like, secondary grow room for experimentation and everything else. In fact, we had 2 grow rooms at one point with 2 different shelving units and 2 different ways of growing, top fruiting and side fruiting, and, like, you name it, we've tried it, just for the sake of finding answers and sharing them. But, yeah. It's I like the preconditioning room too because we have this positive like the fan is taking all this. Well, picking early and picking often makes a huge difference, but the fan is taking all of that out and then bringing new air in. You do have that long preconditioning space where it can kind of mix together, and it's not such a sharp contrast in the temperature change. It's had some time to kind of just move and be consistent. What are you drawing over there?
Well, just an example, like of what we've done here. So, let me see if I can even see this. Okay, yeah. So just a simple diagram. Each one of these little slots is a doorway to our grow room, right? This is our hallway. We call it the Great Hall. This way you have our offices and lab. This way is the access point for Man-O-War's side of the warehouse, Man-O-War, Mushroom Media, and that kind of stuff. So supplies and the docks are like right over here somewhere. You come out of our offices and our laboratory, and you walk right in. This whole space is being air conditioned and treated, and we have an HRV system over here because we actually technically have. That's incubation, which has actually just now been closed off for the winter and made into storage space. But the whole point is this area gets HRV air, recovered air, and the vent gets dropped off right in here. So the recovered energy mixed with fresh air is getting put through here. We have window units like right here and here for air conditioning and here. And then if we have heaters, we have our mini split, and then we have ducting for when we get our big unit installed. But for now, we've just got like space heaters lining down the hallway. So that makes this whole space kept clean because the air is always flowing. Right? You've got the air is always flowing in the direction of these arrows because the grow rooms may be right down through here, and the fans are here taking air out. Air gets sucked in, treated by heat or cold, and then we have our humidifiers right here, and then it just gets sucked through.
And we have door flaps. We
do. There's flaps right here. They're sucked. They're being like bowed in right now. If you open it up, then you can see all the other flaps move because the pressure's changed.
Yeah.
So. That's just a very simplified version of what we've got, but that's basically how we do it. And that way, the air is always moving in one direction, so we know that we can put cleaner stuff upstream and dirty stuff downstream. And in fact, let's say I've got 30 bags that are like half moldy, but I want to fruit them anyways because I need spores of that or whatever. Then what I can do is take those and put them all the way down at the end of the grow room, right there underneath the fan. Open them up. I don't open it up where mold is visible, ever.
There'll be like a little speck of mold on the very back right
if there's
corner,
like mold on the back.
And you'll flip the block around, and you'll only access the cleanest point that you can. You can even make the cut smaller if you're fearful or whatnot.
Or let's say we have like wild oysters tend to dump spores. Whereas the bred oysters tend to be a little more, conservative. Or like your reishi. Let's say you do want to grow reishi while you're growing oysters. You can keep the reishi near the entrance to the room and put your oysters all the way down to the end.
Back toward the fan.
Yeah, unless your reishis are about to start sporing, because let me tell you, when reishis dump spores, it's everywhere. There is no getting away from it.
It's like a cinnamon bomb.
Yeah, so I would just, like, if they're about to dump, like, I would pick them before they dump spores. But if you really want to grow them, because some people collect reishi spores for, I think it's the cosmetic industry, lotions and things like that. They make medicinal creams out of it. In fact, you'll see in China, they'll grow reishi mushrooms out of the ground, and they put these little just paper bowls around them so that the spores collect on top of the mushroom, and then they'll take that bowl off and they sweep the spores off, and they will collect like a thick layer of dust. And they use that in like the cosmetic industry, lotions, then Chinese medicine, etc. But if that was the case, I'd put the reishis all the way down at the end so the spores get sucked out the fan, unless I'm trying to capture them for some reason.
I wonder if you could do one of those sawdust collector baggy things for spore collection.
I saw that as well. So they did have one that went all the way down the greenhouse. And I guess what happened was like a white sheet. And I didn't realize it was a white sheet until these guys literally went and grabbed the sheet and then like held this bucket thing underneath and then shook the bag. And then it just went poof.
Oh, gosh.
And turned into these guys are wearing
Did they turn into a white sheet?
No, these guys are like covered in red spores and they're wearing like bandanas for breathing, for like particular breathing. Oh my gosh, it's terrible. Yeah.
Gracious.
Wear your masks, people. Next question. we actually let's hit them pretty quick and hard because we actually have about 10 minutes till the timer goes off.
Well,
and like I said, we've already gone a little over, so
we'll have another one.
Oh yeah. For sure, we're one a week, folks.
Well, no, I was going to say that too, just real fast. The preconditioning area, there's such a fine line between having enough air exchange coming through, and then so your mushrooms aren't leggy, and then trying to retain as much warmth as you can in the wintertime so your electricity bill isn't insane. And then same thing in the summer with cooling your space. So that preconditioning room actually, it buys you time, and it kind of helps, again, like I said before, with the new air and the old air, it lets it mix and warm it up or whatnot.
Absolutely.
Can you pretty please expand how the evolution pit tier works on Patreon, and if it would be a good fit? Oh no, it jumped.
Uh-oh.
I'm sorry. And how it would be a good fit for a hobby grower building a strain library. Also going in Discord, it says no text channel. Please help. Okay.
Going into Discord, no text channel. There's like 15 million text channels there.
I don't know. Maybe we can...
Well, we'll have to get that fixed. But what was the first part of that? Expound on the what?
Can you please expand on how the evolution pit tier works on Patreon? And if it's a good fit for a hobby grower building a strain library.
Oh, I think it's a great one. So we fulfill those higher tier ones about every 3 or 4 months or so. So we allow people to just kind of build up, and then we just ship it all at once. Because otherwise there's not a lot for you to play with. I actually do need to send out some SOPs with the next one because we have a few new people on the Evolution Pit tier. But basically it comes down to getting spore syringes from me of mixes that I find interesting. And then basically the easiest way to do it is to do it PF Tech style, like you would do with sillies or something like that, because you're forced to work with spores there. But you can do it on dishes. You can do it in a bag of grain and then inoculate some blocks with it. There's a bunch of different ways. I'll get an SOP out to whoever's a member of it. But usually, like I said, I wait until someone's been in it for 3 or 4 months before I send out their syringes. That way they've got more than one to play with, because otherwise, it's only one to play with. But I think it's a great way to go. You're going to have some really good genetics, and then you'll get to immediately start picking stuff based on your own desires, based on the genetic material that we've been collecting for the past, decade and a half. So,
Yeah.
and I'm sorry, guys, but we are going to hit these pretty quick. So,
And it gives you a chance, too, to be growing the same thing along all the other Patreon members. And we're all talking together, just kind of chatting together, giving results together, that kind of thing.
Well, same genetics, just new mix. So,
yeah. If my grain bags are colonizing, but I see a couple of green spots, I was going to toss them. Or do you think the colonization will take over the contamination? I can answer this one. If it's in grain spawn and you see green,
toss it.
Burn it. Get rid of it. Burn it and whatever. Just don't use it. If it's in a,
throw it in the pit of lava.
Throw it in a pit of lava. But if it's in your colonization, like if it's in your bags that you inoculated for production and there's a small little green speck in the corner, if you'll give it a little bit more time to incubate, oftentimes it will eat that contamination or that mold spot.
What we do, in fact, is if we have like bags, like 30 bags, and you can see healthy oyster mycelium growing and green, and it's like a 50-50 shot or whatever chance, we just let the oyster mushrooms are going to win. We just let them go a little longer, a week or two longer, and then those bags actually fruit better. But if it's in your grain, toss it out.
Yeah, don't keep that. But you'll see the mycelium. It'll encase it, and it'll create a hardened layer on it too. It's so cool. Anyway, I'm going to do a children's book on this.
He draws and sings. What a total package! I saw that, Falcor.
Oh, man. Every once in a while, my lion's mane bag will have a few inches of milky clear water in the bottom of the bags at harvest time. What's causing this? And they are very sticky. Yeah.
What? Say it again?
The lion's mane bags, they'll have a clear, like a milky clear water in the bottom of the bags.
Yeah.
It's kind of a metabolite with a mixture of oftentimes yeast or what we call the black death. It can turn black, and it'll create like this peroxide type fuzzy foaminess. It's some strangeness. And then I have noticed that too with the stickiness of lion's mane whenever it kind of starts doing that as well. I've often thought that was very interesting and very, very cool. But what's causing it?
I don't know. No, I mean, if I knew, I wouldn't have black death, right? Like, that's... as far as I can tell, every time I've cultured it out, it's a mold. And I think that the milky material is... So Hericiums produce hydrogen peroxidase, or whatever it's called. It's basically hydrogen peroxide. Did I just hear a beep?
You did.
So, yeah.
I will fix it if it is what I think it is, if you will answer this next question, which is, do you still do aerated liquid culture, and have you had problems with contamination with it?
Yes, and yes. That has been my caveat with aerated liquid culture the whole time, is that it is a riskier procedure. However, when it does work, it grows phenomenally. So, aerated liquid culture works really, really well for me. But it, what we do typically now to screen it is we go from aerated LC to grain spawn, and we'll do like 100 milliliters in a bag of grain. And that has worked out better for us than anything, because you can see that contamination first bag. And if a couple of bags are contaminated, you can pretty much just say all of them are. And then that grows in so fast that I have found aerated LC to be worth it just in manufacturing grain spawn. As far as going straight to bulk, I haven't been playing with that as much now, since I have figured out how to make grain spawn so fast and cheap and easy. And in part due to the aerated LC. Next one.
First time growing enoki, do you grow it in the bag?
Yes, we grow it in the bag. Actually, the past couple of live streams we've had, I've done some video in the middle where I show the enoki. But So far, I have found the best way to grow enoki is just to let everything grow, like I said, get nice and gooey and orange. Put it in the grow room, and then just below where you sealed the bag, cut it open, let it fruit. Once it's fruited, reach down there, grab it up, pull it out, let it grow again. By doing that, we've actually, this past time growing enoki, I've never gotten enoki to grow more than one flush until this year. Now, doing it that way, I've got, what have we gotten, Samantha, like 5 flushes per bag of enoki? It's something ridiculous like that.
Yes, doing it that way. Before, I cut the entire bag off and initiated it a lot.
And I think it just dried out after the first flush on that one.
The first flush was amazing. It was all over the block. It was beautiful. And we were kind of wanting to somewhat dry it out because we were growing at that time the velvet foot enoki, which is a gorgeous strain, but the velvet foot part, I guess, ends up being like a little kind of inky. So we were hoping that would sort of fix that, and it did. But the second flush the block ended up being so dry that we upped the humidity and then it molded. So we've just been growing it in the bag. And we've had remarkable success with that. It's been really nice. I've been really impressed. So.
Excellent. Next question.
So there's some monikers here. Curious about LC to FB.
Fruiting blocks. We've already gone over that.
Oh. Haha.
Twice now, technically.
Oh, okay.
But it's probably just where it's further up in the chat.
Are you interested in morel tissue culture?
Yes,
Andrew?
always. I'm interested in every culture. So if anybody has any morel cultures, excuse me, I'm not sure what happened there. I'm always interested in morels, especially wild morels. So, and I'm always happy to trade strain for strain.
And then Jake said, would we be interested in getting wild genetics from Mongolia? Mongolia?
Yes. Jacob,
yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes, we would. That would be so awesome.
do you even need to ask?
No.
And like I said, I will trade strain for strain. So if you send me a strain that's
at this point, I think he has all of our strains.
He might. Not in the new stuff.
Except for the new gold. Oh, that is true. Yeah.
We got a bunch of stuff.
True. We do have some stuff. It's about to be released, and I think you guys are going to be very, very happy to see the new stuff too. Which classics will always be classic.
The Moper series.
But,
and the K-Bores.
Yeah. And then Andrew just did a Pearly White and BS26 mix. So those are two of my favorites.
They're going to testing right now. Yeah.
Yep. I'm excited to see what.
As soon as I get photos of those will be on sale. But yeah, Pearly White crossed with the BS26 Blue. I am super stoked.
And then Danny's, I've heard y'all say that you stick to one type of substrate. Are there particular production strains that you use a different substrate recipe for?
Wait, what's the question? Say it again.
I've heard y'all say that you stick to one type of substrate. Are there particular production strains that you use a different substrate recipe for? So what substrates do we use for different strains?
So no, we've kind of gone down to I want to keep my supply lines really simplified right now with the way my business is going. Production is being shoved into a small corner while the online side takes over everything. So I don't have the same like this. We're in an old grow room right now, and incubation's in an old grow room. I've gone from 3 grow rooms to 1 grow room for testing of strains and collecting caps for spore prints to continue the mushroom breeding program and things like that, and then for testing and educating. So I mean, we'll still be growing something like 600 pounds a week out of a grow room. That's still a lot, but it's something Samantha and I can handle by ourselves versus needing 4, 5, 6 employees to handle 3 grow rooms and all that production, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that being the case, maybe I might kind of make it a little bit more complex if I really needed to squeeze some stuff out. But I think what I would rather do is something I'm working on now, which is very soon there will be a Coffee King Blue on offer on our website, which is King Blue oyster that has been trained to live entirely off coffee grounds. And coffee grounds usually make a really crappy substrate. But if you train strains to live on a substrate, there won't be... Let's say if I take a regular King Blue and I take that spawn and I shake it up and I pour it into sterilized coffee grounds, there might be days where it just sits there going, what do I do? This is way too much acid for me, right? Until it finally goes through a biological process to go, well, this is all I've got to eat. This is what I'm going to eat. I'm going to learn to eat this, right? And it works through all that stuff. And I realize I'm anthropomorphizing this a little bit. But the point being that I would train strains to whatever substrate makes the most economic sense to me. So if I'm in the middle of the city and coffee grounds are what I've got, then I would order from a strain trainer or breeder who trains strains. Because there's two different ways to do this strain train. One was this one was modified, created, come up with, but brought to my attention. I'll put it that way. Brought to my attention by a fellow named Armando Duran, also known as Mondo, who basically created Feast and Famine plates, and then does this strain training to where the Feast and Famine builds up a familiarity with that substrate for that strain. So, like, when you take that King Blue, for example, and throw it into coffee grounds, there is no delay. It just sees it as food. There is no more, this is too much acid, or I don't know what this is. It just gets right about to going about its business. That is what you might call a clonal generation, right? So every time you go to these, you are cloning it out, and you are shepherding the genetics via a clonal generation into the direction you want to go. Versus if I took spores and took all these strains and then selected for the best children of King Blue that did the children that did best on the coffee grounds of King Blue over and over and over again, those would be was it called filial generations, family generations, and that would be another selective pressure. But at that point, that's a sexual selection versus I guess what you would call an epigenetic selection. So that's a long-winded, complicated answer, I realize, and may not have even answered your question fully. But what I would say is, instead of managing multiple supply lines, I would find the supply line that worked best for me, train my strains, and then go with that. Or hire someone to train strains for it or whatnot, and then go that direction. So, you got another one for us?
So what is our best advice to sell specialty mushrooms and or wild edibles at a farmer's market where the consumer is uneasy about that, and the advice about presentation and advertising?
Okay. Honestly, it's the same answer I've always had, which is the farmer's market is your best friend. That's where we met our first chefs, first food trucks, first everything. Pick centralized, heavily trafficked farmers markets. Maybe for your first year, just get into a couple of rural ones or something like that. But I will tell you that if you have to jump through hoops to get into a really good farmers market, it probably means it's a really good farmers market for them to be that picky. I'm sure that not all of them that have bureaucracy, and believe me, guys, you can ask Samantha, I am like the last person in the world to ever go through bureaucracy. I flippin' hate it. I am anti-bureaucracy to the point of almost being an anarchist, I guess. Though I would never claim the title necessarily. But I am... Look at that. She's like... She doesn't want me to say anything. I'm basically libertarian, guys. I don't know if like what you say. I'm not left. I'm not right. I'm a moderate, and I'm not ashamed of my political beliefs, which is I'm in the middle. Fuck you.
Yay! Wow.
So, but again, these guys are able to be picky and screen for a reason. So we had to have farmers market inspectors come to our farm to get into what ended up being our only farmers market, which had something like 30,000 people a day might walk through the thing. And it was downtown in the nearest metro, so we were able to meet chefs who were there with their families. We were able to get food trucks that were, to basically like, hey, we'll give you a few 2 or 3 pounds for free. You make some amazing food with our stuff and just tell them where you got it. And then people would be like coming to our table eating a mushroom taco going, this is amazing, So that, then when you're hitting restaurants and you want to hit a lot fast, or maybe if you want to go directly to restaurants because you don't have time for farmers markets, full-size 10-pound sample box, no price list. Go to that box, or go get that box, or when you have boxes available, go to Google and go find dining near me, and then start looking at restaurants and finding restaurants that A, run specials, B, are non-chain high-end restaurants. If it's a chain, they're going to want you to supply the entire chain, and you're not going to be ready for that. So, in fact, for us, we kept chasing Aubrey's for a long time, and Aubrey's was like, yeah, we've got like 6 restaurants. We want you to supply all of them. We're like, okay, we'll let you know when we can do that much. Hey, guys, we can do 6 restaurants now. Oh, well, we've got 11 restaurants now. Okay, we'll be right back, We keep coming back till it's like they got 23 and they're always outgrowing us. So we were just like, screw that. We'll go to the non-chain route. And that worked out really well for us, was the non-chain. So when you find that non-chain restaurant, you go there, full-size sample box, not your best mushrooms, not your worst mushrooms, just your average mushrooms. Because if you bring them your best, they're going to expect the best every time. If you bring them your average first and then bring them a box of best later, they're going to be pleasantly surprised. And then you basically just have your card stapled to the cardboard box. You walk in, you say, may I speak to the... and again, your timing is important. Don't go at lunch, don't go at dinner, go between. And then just say, hey, guys, I'm here to speak to the person in charge of purchasing produce. They're probably going to tell you that person's not available, even if he is. You say, that's fine, I just wanted to leave a sample box. They're going to go, what is it? It's mushrooms. You start walking out. If they do come out and talk to you, hey, man, I know your time's important. I didn't mean to interrupt your day. I'm heading out the door. You've got my phone number. Just let me know. Hey, wait, man. These things look amazing. Come back here for a second, That's usually what we did, was let the mushrooms sell themselves.
And that's a good point. I think too, maybe I'm just reading more into it, but that fear that some people get thinking maybe the mushrooms are poisonous, how can you put them at ease with that? I mean, as far as kind of what we've done is you can do DNA testing and have that kind of DNA proof that it is an oyster mushroom or it is a chicken of the woods or maitake or whatever.
That's going to cost you an arm and a leg, though. The biggest thing for me was, how do you know an apple's not poisonous? What are you talking about? Because an apple's not poisonous. Right, because you're familiar with an apple. I'm familiar with these mushrooms. I know they're not poisonous. I grew these myself. I'm not going to grow poisonous mushrooms in my home.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
I didn't mean to. I thought it was a pause.
Nope, you're good. But thank you.
I know we've talked about doing the DNA testing for each of our strains and releasing that certificate with each one that we sell. And that's kind of
one day. We're not there yet.
Yeah, it is. It's on our wish list. But like Andrew said, there is obvious characteristics that it's not, and you can just more education, teaching more on that.
Well, and I always I've said, oh dang, they're poisonous. I got about 5 minutes left. Or just, I mean, what a silly question. Like, I don't know the way. I don't think it's a
silly question. I think it's a very serious, very thoughtful, wholesome question. And you, as a cultivator, can put someone's heart at ease on that, especially if you are, this is the reason why we cultivate.
You can tell which one of us is the nice one.
Well,
really.
And we both, I think this is one of the reasons why we work so well, is that we both have differing opinions on either end of the spectrum, and we do kind of come together and we sort of even each other out. But, also the fact that it is important, I think, to see both sides. And so we can oftentimes have good, healthy conversation about both sides without getting, mad at each other or angry at each other. And
Yeah, I mean, usually the nice way I would put it is that, look, ma'am, I wouldn't be in business very long if I was selling poisonous mushrooms. And I've been in this business for, a year now or 2 years, and haven't poisoned a person yet. Or I buy spawn from, trusted purveyors of spawn. I buy from specialized laboratories that sell only gourmet mushrooms. Or, I will tell you that I feel you about the poison aspect, because let's just be honest about my people, the Scots-Irish. They're about as fungophobic as they come. I mean, I was told by some teacher or something, that we would go blind if we touched the oh dang it, what are they called? The puffballs. And then really that just made me and my cousins and my brother throw them at each other more. But
oh gosh.
but well, I mean, yeah. Again, you can tell there it is, but it's just the familiarity aspect, man, and it's gonna take a while. If you live in an area that's fungophobic, just be there every week. That's the only way you're gonna win those people over. Is if they see you week after week, then they know, oh, this guy's likely not poisoning people. Otherwise, the town would be in an uproar. But there'd be news articles about you. So that would be the nice way to do it. Is just be like, ma'am, I know they're not poisonous because I buy my spawn from certain purveyors. They've been in business since the 1800s or 1700s or whoever you're talking about. If you're talking about like Lambert's, or even just a trusted laboratory, it doesn't really matter. You can just kind of put their hearts at ease. But that person is unlikely to buy anything from you if they're that afraid. Samantha was always really good about just going, you know what? Look, ma'am, I promise they're good, and we eat them all the time, with 3 or 4 times a week. How about you take a quarter pound home and just try it? And they'll be like, well, I'm not going to pay for that. And I'd be like, Samantha, stop giving away product. But then, you know what? A lot of times she won those people over, and when she won those people over, they'd become very loyal customers. So that might be a good way to go as well. And yeah, I feel you, Hendrix. I don't like to slap a label on myself, which is why I was saying I guess you could call me a whatever,
I will say that we did have someone who was a long-time regular, and she became pregnant. And then shortly after her pregnancy, I guess just the stress of the change and, in her personal environment, the stress of, the pregnancy itself and everything else caused her to be all of a sudden allergic to Shitaki mushrooms. And she came back and told me that she had an allergic reaction that's kind of outside of our wheelhouse on that. Like you're not, like you can't help that someone's allergic to it. And we understand because we have nut allergies. Like it pretty severe in our family. We have nut allergies, and so we have to be very careful about what we eat. Even Rice Krispie treats. Our eldest son had allergic reaction to a Rice Krispie treat, which doesn't have nuts in it, but it is produced on a facility, a line that does process nuts, and it just transferred over. And so it's just I know this is kind of getting off of the topic of a mushroom being poisonous, but yeah, there's fears out there in general, and that person will evaluate their own risks being in that environment or being in that that situation of choosing to buy that mushroom or not, and they do take on a certain responsibility in that. So there's that to consider. And then of course, you take in that kind of return, that risk evaluation, and then that ROI, that return of investment. You're going out and you're spending the time to pick these mushrooms and search for wild mushrooms. Of course, you're not going to take anything that can be really risky. You're not going to take anything that could be potentially dangerous. There's your reputation on the line as well. So I don't know. I never took anything to market, or even Andrew and I have never really exposed ourselves to eating wild mushrooms that in any way could be thought to be something poisonous.
The
So-
closest we've come is like honey mushrooms, but that's really like if you drink it with alcohol, or there's a higher propensity of people that might have an allergy. So I mean, we just try a little bit the first
And then you
time
have
we're
to
trying
cook it at a certain temperature for a certain amount of time.
Right, and so but you just explain that to people, and I mean, we only dealt with honeys once or twice, and it's not like a huge they're not the best culinary mushroom anyway, so it's nothing to get wrapped up about. But as far fatty acids, yeah, man, if you've got Californian strains, I trade mushroom strains all the time. Just hit me up on the contact us page on our website.
Well, also, we just
And-
got an email, and I think it may have been from you because this is remarkably similar to what you asked. So I've got that email still. If it is you, will you email us and let us know?
That way we don't double email you.
So we're not talking to someone else, answering them based on your question.
Well, we'll still respond to that email, but
It was. Okay.
good.
I
Well-
thought I answered that, but if I didn't, I will go back and answer it again. We've gotten, golly, like 800 emails
This
just in the past few
holiday
days.
season has
I'm
been.
getting a little. Some things are getting buried, so I'm having to go back and
We're starting to feel our extrovert batteries die a little. So, with that, guys, we need to actually close this out. We've gone way past our timer, and thanks to all the problems we had earlier. So, guys, we really appreciate you guys joining us and hanging out with us and making this a success as always. Have a happy new year. I think this is going to be a big year for us mushroom folk. I mean, everyone I know is doing and or releasing some really cool projects. We've got some projects lined up for the rest of the year, some more mushroom related than others, some just environmental, I guess, ecological. I don't know what you would call it. But anyways, we've just got some cool stuff coming beyond our normal stuff. But for now, we're going to focus on getting that website out because we are coming down on the deadline.
Yes.
And feeling the pressure, folks. At this point, it's not like what else can we add to the website. It's what can we cut to make this functional and still release on the same day. We got the Mycologium being released soon, which means that pretty soon, hopefully on a weekly basis, we'll have new strains being loaded up. And, of course, some cool new merch. And, hey, don't forget about that Bioprospectors tee that Samantha's got. And also, like I said, the strain that we're pushing this week is BS26. I think it's the perfect time for people to be starting it up and growing it for the deep winter, for the restaurants, and then the early spring farmers markets. So, yeah, y'all, I don't have anything else. Samantha, you got anything?
Nope.
All right. Well, with that, y'all, keep spawning culture.
Happy New Year's.
Happy New Year's.